Richard?
Thank you, Chair. The vehicle we saw, will it be having a sign on the top, a lit up sign on the top, or is this just only private hire that you're going to do?
Hi, yes, so it will be fully compliant with the Hackney conditions, so they will have a top light on top of the vehicle. Okay. Yes, that's correct.
Thanks.
Jonathan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Right, Jonathan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. More for officers than Visu, but have we ever had this level of advertisement on Hackney carriages before? And then my second question would be to Visu, if you were to move out of the area, would you remove all your signage from the vehicles so the Hackney carriage licensees can operate the vehicles without obviously your advertisement on it? So those are my two questions. Thank you, Chair.
If I'll start then. No, we haven't had any full livery requests before, other than the Green Fleet pilot scheme, which was a bit different. They did require some exemptions from conditions. We see a lot of door signs and vehicle signage in that respect, but this is the first request for the full livery, which isn't part of the Green Fleet pilot scheme. Hi, so in respect to your question with regards to removing the signage, it is a wrapped vehicle, so it would not be able to be removed. At the moment, we are only requesting that our vehicles are wrapped. So obviously it's something that someone could consider when they are looking to rent a vehicle from us, that it would be permanent on that vehicle. It's not to say that they couldn't undertake any bookings in a Hackney carriage sense either, but obviously it would have to remain on the vehicle. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah, Philip.
Yeah, thank you very much. What is the rationale? I think I know why, but what is the rationale by having so much sort of decal, as we call it, or wrap on it, as opposed to, the statutory white that we have with the regular markings that we legislate upon at the moment? Why do you think it is necessary to cover the vehicle in such high-profile things then?
Yeah, so I suppose really we don't want to hide away from the fact that we are a private hire operator, and that predominantly within Bridgend, you are Hackney. Obviously the driver partners get given a dual badge and they prefer to go down the Hackney vehicle route. We want to make it more visible for passengers. We are looking at the safety of vulnerable passengers. It's something that I deal with on quite a daily basis, to be honest, and something that I do take very seriously with regards to making sure that members of the public can see that their vehicle has arrived. They're able to identify that vehicle. They feel safe getting into that vehicle, knowing it is a licensed vehicle. It's also obviously we are a company. We want to advertise our company. There's no hiding that, obviously, I'll be truthful. But it's just about sort of putting something out there that really gets people's attention and makes them feel safe. Late at night, a lot of times on the side of the There's nothing really else identifying it's a taxi unless you go to the back and look at the rear plate. It's just providing that extra level of support. The vehicles do not have to have signage on them, so we find that where they might initially put signage on, after a while the signage sort of drops off, they don't put it on, and therefore it just looks like a white vehicle turning up to collect a passenger. So it's something I suppose we designed to really sort of make people notice it and make it stand out.
Obviously, you are aware that most of taxis and private hire, of course, they're a private hire, but the taxis as well also have their lit signs as well on top, so they stand out quite well. And it's obvious, you know, it's up to the licensing committee, but it would be obvious to me if I was a rival firm that I would have to think of something that would, and apply to the council, that would equally match yours, or probably even more. So there may be an instance where a war of decals will break out, because that would be the obvious move for myself, having maybe 10, 12 vehicles on the road or something, and you know, so. But I don't see the rationale myself of just basically having so much high-profile visual decal on it. But yet I have yet to make my mind up on that, obviously.
So obviously, you know, other companies, they're more than welcome to put forward an application to yourselves if they wish. We are the first to have done so. And it is, you know, if I'm honest with you, personally, if other companies did and there were more sort of decals like that to really highly identify a taxi, then I would be for it, in all honesty. I just think for public safety, for vulnerable passengers, those, you know, who have got sight issues or anything like that, it just gives that extra presence on the road.
Councillor Easterbrook.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank you.
Heidi, go ahead.
Thank you. Can I ask how many Visu vehicles are in Bridgend County at the moment, and what fleet size are you expecting to achieve?
Currently, at the moment, I believe we have 4 or 5 vehicles reserved on one side that are hybrid, that should this application get approved today, we would like to put out onto the fleet. That's approximate, if we go with the 5 vehicles, that would be around 10% of our fleet.
Fleet for Bridgend that you...
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Easterbrook.
Okay, thank you. I did have a 2-part question. I've got a 3-part question now. That's okay. Branding is obviously important to every company, and if a white car turned up, that it's not necessarily that is a taxi, is it? So I can understand the branding. You've mentioned that if you see a car with that branding, it is going to be a Visu. Can I ask, will all your drivers have that branding? And when you say people can hire a vehicle from you, I'm thinking of a driver could hire. So as opposed to an owner driver, they would be hiring. So would they be hiring one of those branded cars off you?
Yeah, so we would have the vehicles wrapped and they would be available for hire. So if any driver partner, sorry, apologies, if any driver partner decided he wanted to hire a vehicle, that would be the option he would have. Obviously, the application is from us on behalf of our vehicles. The driver partners that are owner driver partners wouldn't have the wrapped We can't force it. They're self-employed. We can't obviously force them to have the
Okay.
wrap on their vehicles.
So not all Visu cars are going to have the Visu branding.
No, but we have had a few owner-driver partners interested actually in, if this application does get approved, that they would
Okay.
also like to seek to get their vehicles wrapped as well.
So that doesn't totally enforce the fact of why you want something branding is reassurance, because it's only a reassurance if it has the branding. If it doesn't have the branding but it's still a Visu car, then that reassurance isn't there.
I completely agree with you. However, we have to start somewhere. And if we
Okay.
can get our fleet vehicles wrapped and out on the road, we've already had, like I said, I think it's 3 or 4 driver partners that are also interested in having their personal vehicles wrapped. And obviously, once one does, the other does, is a bit of a knock-on effect. So we have to start somewhere, and obviously our application is in respect of the vehicles that we actually own. So that's
Okay.
why we're starting where we are today.
All right.
Okay.
My third question, you said about that we have 5 vehicles which are hybrid. So is it just the hybrid? Is it just the eco vehicles that are going to have this branding?
On our fleet, yes, because that's
Okay.
what we're moving towards, is a green fleet.
So can I ask what percentage, and this is a 4th question, sorry, Chair. Can I ask what percentage of your fleet are these eco vehicles?
Okay, so please don't quote me for exact figures.
Okay.
We currently have 130 vehicles across the south, so that's South Wales and the southwest, of which we've just taken 40 off the road to replace with 40 hybrid. So it's obviously in a staged stage. So at the moment, it's about 1/3 of our vehicles. What we aim to do is get one vehicle in and take one off the road, and sort of replace that. We're not looking to increase our fleet size, just replace with the hybrids.
Okay. Thank you for that. As I say, branding is important, identity is important, but there should be no assumption, which is what you don't want. Somebody doesn't want to get into a car and assume because it's got some branding or no branding, or because a lot of people that get into a taxi may be inebriated. So if a car pulls up and they say, "Hey, mate, you out taxi," whether you've got branding or not, people may get into it. So in your greatest desire to brand yourself, and from a public protection, I don't know whether you can assure that 100%, even if you was to sort of make the whole car totally branding. So I understand why you're doing it, but I don't think you're going to achieve everything you want to, and you're not going to stop competitors from equally branding a vehicle. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, yeah, it's definitely not looking to stop competitors at all. But again, we have to start somewhere, and hopefully, should we get this application approved, we can start to make steps towards making everything safer for the passengers of Bridgend.
Councillor Bledsoe.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. For the record, I went downstairs. I like the design. I like all of that. I agree totally on the visibility of it and the reinforcement that this is a taxi that's linked to yourselves. I think that's a great idea. One thing that you said, though, does concern me. What happens to your fleet of cars when they stop being taxis? And more importantly, what happens to the fleet of cars when your partner's drivers stop being associated to you? Because what I'm concerned about from what you've said today is that if we say yes to this and you brand up a load of cars with your branding, not with the license, that your branding becomes a de facto license plate, that people would think they're getting into a Visu taxi that's no longer linked to you in any way, shape or form. If you allow people who don't rent from you to brand their cars up, what controls do you have to make sure they're not advertising your brand after they've stopped the relationship?
Yes, so with regards to our vehicles, if it was to be wrapped, and then taken off the road for whatever reason and become an unlicensed, we would have that wrap removed before we look to do anything else, the same as we do with the plates, returning them to licensing, etc. And then whether that vehicle is in the scrapyard or whether it's sold on as a private sale, it will not have the Visu branding on it. With regards to driver partner owners, at the moment, because we don't have that, we don't have anything in place, but we would, as a business, we would do something whereby a contract would be signed with the driver partner to say that upon his leaving the business, his disengagement, he would need to remove those before we would return any sort of monies owed to him or anything like that as well. So there would be a contract put in place to ensure that as well, and they would be obviously legal then if it wasn't followed.
Can I just ask then, are we able to make that a condition of approval? Because my concern is that if somebody who doesn't rent the car from Visu, but owns their own car, wraps it with Visu, then breaks that relationship. Do you see what I mean about the branding becoming an almost de facto license plate? Yes, but they still drive around unlicensed, unlinked to Visu, and they would just be driving around picking up people because they think it's a Visu car.
Can I come in, Chair?
Can Kirsty come in, Chair?
Yeah, can I bring Kirsty in first, please?
I just wanted to point out that this application is just for Visu-owned vehicles. It's not for partners at the moment. So that might be.
Oh, so it would have to be a separate application?
Yes.
Heidi?
I'm going to defer to Councillor Pratt because I think he's got a question that's particularly relevant to this. And then if you come back to me, Chair, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to go back to my first question. I understand this is an application for Visu's fleet, not partners. But my first question was, how is this removed? As and when Visu either ceases to exist or not operate in the area. I'm sure I heard it couldn't be removed. So how does this then get removed if it can't be removed? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So just for clarity, for example, the Visu signage currently that goes on the back door of the vehicle is a magnet. So it's removable, put back on whenever as you wish and choose. The vehicle wrap is very much like like cling film. Once it goes on, you can't remove it without damaging the actual design. So it would need to be remade and re-put onto the vehicle. So it's a sticker ultimately that can be peeled off but can't be put back on. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I understand a wrap, but what I think the point I'm making is if at any point Visu decides we don't want to operate in Bridgend anymore, it may happen down the road, that what do you do with your vehicles? Do you sell, because they will be licensed to operate in BCBC, so do you sell those vehicles on to licensed drivers with all this Visu all over it? You know what I mean? You know, it's like, you know, whether that will be an advantageous for a driver or not, and when does that become a local authority problem rather than a private company problem? So
with regards to that, I suppose it would be a business decision at the time. Do we get those vehicles replated and licensed for another local authority such as Cardiff or Vale of Glamorgan? And if the driver partner did want to purchase the vehicle, if that was an option, then obviously we would sell the vehicle to the driver partner with the plates removed and with the wrap removed, because it would be a private sale. We most probably wouldn't sell the plates. That would have to go back through retesting, so they would get their own plates then.
sorry, Councillor Bennett, can I just ask the officers, if this was to happen, that a Visu wrapped vehicle was sold to a licensed operator in this authority, how much of a headache would that be for us as a licensing authority, that we now have a wrapped vehicle with a company that doesn't operate in Bridgend?
So are you asking if they didn't do what Kirsty has just
Yeah, so
mentioned?
if the company, if Visu chooses not to operate in Bridgend anymore, and they sell their fleet on, wrapped if we approve this, to a driver licensed to drive in Bridgend, what would this authority expect that driver to do with that vehicle if the livery's on it? Because we would go back to our plain white, presumably. So I mean, this is going to be a problem. This potentially could be a problem for us down the line. I think it's worthwhile discussing it now rather than having a headache down the road, if that makes sense.
Yep, if they did that, then that would require us to take enforcement action against the driver. Well, advise them not to put the wrap on, and if the wrap was still on and they were caught with the wrap on and still driving round without approval, written approval from the licensing authority, then we would take enforcement action.
Again, you can't remove it. So, I mean, this is, I don't know whether I'm being
We can
worried
issue
on this,
stop
but it's,
notices
yeah.
on vehicles.
Okay.
So we would be able to stop them driving that vehicle
Right, yeah,
immediately, and then we could take them to committee for any sanction.
Okay, thank you.
Just ask Kirsty. How would we know that they still had the wrap on?
We wouldn't unless there was intelligence or they were caught with a wrap and they didn't have any additional. Yeah, we would have to have some information to know that first. But yeah, the scenario entails that Visu would sell their vehicles with the wrap. I think it's worth noting that Kirsty has advised that that's not something that they would do.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment as well that really that could apply for any signage that a private hire operator provides if they were to leave the area and the driver partner has the signage anyway, that they could still operate. But we would make every attempt to, ensure that didn't happen, and that would involve the removal of the wrap prior to any sale if it was to happen. But we have no intentions of leaving Bridgend.
Happy, thank you, Chair. No worries. Yeah.
Tony.
Sorry, me next, Chair. Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry, Heidi, your hand's not coming up. So.
Oh.
Go on.
My question is, on the documents that we received, page 15, we have an image of a vehicle there with the livery on that, and that's quite subtle. What we saw downstairs had a lot more decals, or whatever they're called, on them in terms of smarter car, eco car, all of that sort of side of things. So my question is, if this committee was mindful to support the application, but with a kind of reduced busyness to the wrap-in, how would the company view that?
Obviously, I think it depends on what you would request is not on there. I think the primary design of the white with the V's, that's integral to our design. I do take on board the comments that you have made, and I think if it's a case of getting this vehicle across the line, as they say, and ensuring that the application is, then we would be open to any sort of suggestions with that.
Tony.
Thank you, Chair. As Heidi just said, it is very busy besides the corners. I think the back is a bit over the top too. It could other drivers following it and things like that. That's the only thing. And there's another point. all the other firms then will start trying to do it the same as you were doing. So we could end up with lots of taxis in Bridgend of all different designs. In a couple of years' time, that's what I'm thinking down the line, what it's going to be like.
So we have obviously tried our best to ensure that the white is still highly visible on that. And it is more, like I said, it's our application that we've put forward. As far as I'm aware, and Kirsty said earlier, no other businesses have done this previously. Each application would obviously be on its own merit, but I do feel that it is something that really sort of stands out and will help us, like I said, with regards to public protection and really ensuring public safety. And if other companies wish to do the same, I would welcome it as well. I really would.
Well, the vehicle don't do nothing for the safety. It's the drivers you've got to worry about. And we have managed for quite a number of years in Bridgend.
No, that's correct. All your driver partners are fully enhanced DBS checked, and you know, I've worked down here for quite a few years now with Dragon Visu. Driver partners you have are excellent. The issue that we just seem to find is that it's the identity of the vehicle, the high amount of no-shows that a driver partner gets purely because they're not able to locate the driver partner. They stood outside a pub late at night, for example, or they're in a busy area where there's an event and they can't see the front of the vehicle to see the registration plate. There's too many people there, but that just identifies their vehicle a lot higher.
Are there any other questions? No? Kirsty, can we ask you to go with Julie now? And we'll call you back in. Thank you.